Hey everybody, what's going on? Let's take a look, and you guys may hear me sitting here shuffling some tarot cards. I just want to pull one card, or maybe a few cards. We'll see what we get. You guys know I go by feelings. I'm a Cancer sign, so it's all about how I feel. So I want to pull one card from each of the tarot decks that I'm going to use. And I don't know why I always forget the name of this one particular tarot deck. I'm about to tell you what it is, though, because I think it has a card in the deck that's actually the name of the deck. Let me find it really quick. I haven't had the deck for that long. It's a pretty new deck. I really, really like the deck. I think it's very telling. The only, I would say, downside, I think this is the numinous tarot deck. That's what I think this is, the numinous, which I think basically means like the unknown, the metaphysical, the psychic, because it has a card for the numinous in the deck, and it's mystery. So like the mystical tarot deck, and I really, really like this deck because it has the houses, the signs, the aspects, and the planets. So it's a really cool deck. My only, I guess you could call it negative feedback about the deck is the cards aren't like heavy cards. I mean, to me, they're a little thinner than maybe the Rider-Waite cards. I think the Rider-Waites are a tad heavier, but I kind of like thick, heavy cards because when you read tarot and you're always shuffling or you're always, um, you know, using the tarot cards, thinner cards can kind of weigh down. And they aren't paper thin. Of course, I don't like paper thin cards too, and so these have a little weight, but I just think these could be a little thicker. So that's my only, um, I guess you could say, negative feedback about the deck. So you guys will see I'm sharing my screen. I am just going to, let me see if I can move this, and let me see if I could zoom in. I have so many tabs open at the top. I just want to see. I don't know how to zoom. Usually I have a bar on here that lets me zoom, but for some reason I can't find it. Let me see. Save as, print, reload. For some reason I can't find my zoom. So I hope that you guys bookmarks. Sometimes I really like the Firefox browser, but I just hate the way it does the tabs and how it's just not simple. Like if it's there once, it should pretty much always be there. And usually I have a thing up here that tells me like if I want to zoom or whatever, or it'll let me kind of customize the toolbars. I just hate the fact that, oh, I can never find it sometimes. Like it's not always in the same place. Do you guys experience that with your Google browser? Well, in any case, I hope that, let me see. There we go. So I hope that you can see this. I just zoomed it and made it full size. So we just kind of have to scroll to see the bottom. But the thing about it is, most of the planets are sitting right here, well, below the horizon, and then some over here above it, as you see that line right there. So we can just take a look at the chart. We really don't need to see the bottom too much. This is just a chart for the day of the eclipse. So this chart is for July 2nd. And for all of you guys watching it, go ahead and wish me happy birthday. I mean, I don't like to let my business all out there, but I can't help it with the eclipse kind of falling right around my birthday or on my birthday or whatever the case. So you guys say a prayer that I have all lovely things and oh Jesus, lovely things in my life. I don't know if you guys just heard like half of the cards of my tarot deck fell on the ground. So anyway, I'm wishing for all great, lovely, positive things. I know people interpret these eclipses and these transits different ways. I've heard great things about them on a personal level. Um, and I've heard some negative things about them on a personal level, on a world level. But if that isn't the nature of the world, I don't know what is, for there to be negative and positive in everything that we do. So this is just a chart for July 2nd, 2019. Happy birthday to me. Cancer season. And I just did this for New York, New York, and I'm going to use the whole sign system on this particular chart. So let me just put it back. And if we need to see something, I'll make it bigger because I want you guys to be able to see all of the signs. And I'm using astroseek.com right now. So you can see what the planetary positions are. It's going to list them out over here. This is just basic astrology that we're doing, guys. So this should be really easy for folks to follow. And this will tell you what house everything's in and what elements, how many elements are going on. So just looking at that, there are going to be 6 planets in fire, 4 in air, and it's probably counting some of the aspects and details as well. 3 in earth, and it says 14 in times water. So a lot of energy there in the fire and the water. So hot and cool, hot and cool. It's probably going to be a lot of fiery times, but it's going to be a lot of water there to extinguish that fire and to balance it, which is a good thing. I mean, and some fire there, so it's not too much water. So, should be a pretty interesting month in 6 months or years or so as we go ahead. So what I wanted to look at also, just talking about the eclipse cycles and things like that. You guys know I've been saying I was going to do this reading. I was going to talk about this. This meant a lot to me because number one, I have Capricorn cousins whose birthday is right around mine, but in January. So they were going through the eclipses as well. So I really understand, and with myself being a Cancer, so this transit chart is close to of course my transits and what's going on. Well, of course, all of our transits are going to be the same, but where it actually falls in the chart is really close to what goes on and what's going on in my natal chart, because with the exception of some of these planets, because this isn't a transit, this is basically like a natal chart for July 2nd, which is going to show you all the transits, because it's a chart for that day. But it's very similar to my chart because, again, like I said, the eclipse is happening on my birthday, and I am a Cancer sun and a Cancer rising. So I could really, really relate to where everything is in this chart. I've been dealing with this Saturn over here in the seventh house for a while. Pluto over there in the 7th house. Again, this is a whole sign chart. This is not a Placidus whole sign being kind of the most ancient sort of chart, but I know a lot of people use Placid. And I've been taking some astrology classes, and my current astrology teacher really believes in traditional astrology and doesn't give a whole bunch of credit to some of the things that go on with modern or astrology. But me myself, I feel like as we move through time, everything evolves, but it's the same way where you always have to take history into account, because you can never disregard the foundations that were laid, because the way things are done before it's complicated throughout time and before things change and evolve, you'll notice the most basic way to do things is sometimes the best way to do things. But at the same time, you have to keep up with the times, and you have to take into consideration discoveries that were made over the years. I take into account some of the outer planets in ways that traditional astrology doesn't. So as I come to learn astrology more, I lean more towards a mix of traditional and modern, because I understand the importance of change and evolution, man's evolution through time, but I also understand the value and the importance of history. So that's kind of where I stand, like right in the middle of modern and traditional. Some things will float more to one side, and some things will float more towards the other. So just with that being said, this is a whole sign chart, and that basically means every sign is going to start at 0 degrees and go to 30 degrees throughout the whole zodiac wheel. So again, I've been dealing with this stuff going on over here. You know, like I said, this is similar to my chart, at least for where the sun, the North Node, and Saturn and Pluto is happening at right now, and Jupiter, because it's in my sixth as well. My sixth is Sagittarius. So the way this chart goes in whole sign is a little different in Placidus because of the time that I was born. And this chart is for, I believe, 5 o'clock in the morning to get Cancer there on the horizon. And in my chart, if I was doing Placidus, I would have intercepted houses. So it would be a little, the placements would be a little bit different, but nothing drastic. So for this in whole sign, it's no intercepted houses. So this is very similar to my chart, just with Jupiter over there in Sag, Venus in Gemini. You know, wouldn't be where my Mercury or anything is. It's not where my Mars is. Well, transit wise, that's what's going on. Yeah, because that's not what my natal placements are. But yeah, so it's very similar. I'm just saying, as far as being in the sixth house and all that, transit wise, and being in the houses that these planets are in, is similar to my chart. So I just want to take a look for everybody at what's going on for the eclipse. So as you guys know, eclipses, you know, they in ancient days, you know, they were kind of seen as omens or um signs of the time, signs that something was coming, signs that events were happening, signs that big deal sort of things were going to happen, whether that be weather changes, earth changes, things happening within society, like big deal things happening within society, like eclipses bring that. And with a solar eclipse, what you'll notice in this particular chart, and we can just make it bigger, is a solar eclipse is when the sun and the moon are in the same sign and the earth passes in between. So as you can see, for this eclipse that's coming up on July 2nd, the moon and the sun are going to both be here in Cancer. And we're also going to have, let's see, the North Node is still in Cancer. I believe the North Node is still retrograding. The only thing I like AstroSeek's chart, I do. The only thing I don't like about AstroSeek, oh, it did put the retrograde on it. I just didn't see it. I was going to say, sometimes I feel like it doesn't put the retrograde on it. But it did. The North Node is still going to be retrograding in Cancer. We have the part of fortune that's sitting there in Cancer. But again, this is just for a natal chart that was drawn on this day. So, you know, but transit-wise, you could say that's what's going on. That's there in Cancer. Venus is going to be in Gemini. Mars is going to be at the 0 degrees of Leo. So that's something to take into account. Mars, I believe on the 1st, is going to be at the 29th degree of Cancer. So that's a big shift with Mars going into Leo. And it's conjunct Venus because Venus is sitting there in 3 degrees of Leo. So maybe some push and pull. You don't want to let anybody aggravate you on that day or going through this eclipse time. And if anything does, and you find yourself possibly getting in arguments with people or not having cohesive sort of relationships between the male and the female, or whatever it may be, family members or whatever the case, you just want to think of the most smooth and calm ways to just figure that out. Again, it's an eclipse time, so you want to spend your time doing your personal rituals, doing things that make you happy, doing things that bring some calm into your life and things of that nature. You don't want to spend a whole bunch of time on anything that's going to be negative. So that's one aspect just to give you with that Mars. And I'm saying that because that Mars is at a critical degree right there at the 29th and 0 degrees. So it goes to show you there's going to be something going on. And hopefully with that Venus conjunct, it can temper out that the wildness and the fire of Mars just a bit. So then, and one thing that I will say, I know that in traditional astrology or astrology period, a lot of times they'll say, okay, well, people give things about a 10 to 15 degree difference for it to be considered a conjunction. But if there's something in the same house and it's really close, then I consider that conjunctions. It just makes a difference on the weakness and the strength of the conjunction. So if you look at the sun here at 10 degrees of Cancer, it's not a tight conjunction with Leo, but because Leo is at that 0 degrees, and oh, my sister sent me something. Instagram is always changing, always doing updates. But anyway, because Mars is at that 0 degree, it's going to be at the 29th degree on the first, the day before the eclipse, you know, at those very last degrees of Cancer. Even though this is wide, I'm still going to consider it a conjunction enough for the energy to maybe flow over. That's also the first house, so it's pretty strong, you know, where, at least in this transit chart, where this energy is going on. So for Cancer ascendants, this is going to be closer to your placement. In Cancer suns, you can take this to pretty much to heart. For everybody else, I'm not going to do a separate chart for every other rising sign, but you won't know necessarily what houses things are in, but the signs that I'm going to talk about that the planets are in are going to be accurate. So you would just have to do your own chart and do a transit chart to see what house and what area of life that's going to play out for you. But because this is Cancer season, it's Cancer's eclipse, and it's Cancer's birthday, we're going to focus on Cancers, but you guys can definitely get something out of this. So and I just want to say happy birthday to all of the Cancers. I hope you guys are really and one theme that I see about this eclipse, and I'll tell you why. The theme that I see about this eclipse obviously is self. There's a lot of energy in this house here of air, of the original house of Aries, the first house. So that house represents, the first house is the ascending house. So what you show others, what others see of you, the body, even the physical health, the look, you know, the self-confidence, the self-assertiveness, your drive out in the world. You know what I mean? And the sun is going to be transiting there. So it's like your inner will and your inner passions coupled with your outer drive and what people see of you. And I think coming into July, coming into Cancer season, especially going through this eclipse, there's going to be a lot of, and that you probably have already seen it starting, because number one, there was the eclipses that we had last year, in 2017 around this time. I can't remember if it happened in Cancer or Leo. I think it was in Leo, but it was really close to this time. And this is a part of like an 18-year eclipse cycle. So you want to think back to what was going on in 2011. So I'm saying that to say, from 2011 and over the different cycles that we've had, all of these years leading up till 2019, and this eclipse that we're having on July the 2nd is a culmination of where you're at in your life, as with anything and everybody. But now when an eclipse comes, it's going to move you forward. Maybe some of the things that have been in place for over the last 10 to 20 years, 10 to 8, 15, 18 years, 10 to 20 years. 18 years is basically 20 years. And if you can imagine, that moves you into a different cycle of your life. So maybe some things that you were contemplating doing that you wanted to do, I feel like it's almost like a redemption, having the moon and the sun and everything kind of meeting up in that house, and even having Mars so close. For the sake of the eclipse, I'll probably just refer to Mars damn near basically being in Cancer, because you're talking about the 0 degree of Leo, the 29th degree of Cancer on July the 1st. So, and of course, Mars is that physical will. Again, we're talking about that first house, which is originally ruled by Aries, which is ruled by Mars. So you can consider that a Mars house. And it's a very strong house because it's an angular house in the chart. So, you know, there's a lot of coming together. Also with the North Node in retrograde. Well, the nodes are always in retrograde, I suppose. Well, not when you're born. I suppose they're in retrograde. But with it retrograding right now, it's talking about destiny, what you're coming to be, the coming of age, the coming to who you are supposed to be and what you're supposed to do, and maybe a path that you're supposed to follow that maybe has only been a contemplation for the last 10 or 20 years, or maybe something has had you stuck for the last 10 or 20 years. So it's specifically the last 18 years. So I think it's a very pivotal point for all of us, and especially for the Cancers, Capricorns, even cardinal signs, because whatever you have natally in a cardinal sign is going to be squaring this eclipse. So, for my Aries out there, my Libras, my Capricorns, it may get a little difficult. It may get a little difficult for you because the eclipse is going to be squaring your personal planets, your sun, possibly your Mercury, your Venus, your Mars, things that travel pretty close that you may have in cardinal signs. But for Cancer, I feel like it is your time. No matter what goes on from this eclipse or just in the world, period, which you may view as negative or not something that's positive, I think it's definitely going to be a time where Cancer is going to shine. You guys are going to come into your destiny, and I believe it's going to be, the eclipse is going to move the Cancers forward on a path, having to do with everything, having to do with your place in the world, the value that you place on yourself, self-worth, your self-identity, how you identify yourself and relate to people in relationships. So some of you folks may be going through the sifting of relationships. Maybe you've really been thinking and contemplating. And of course, a lot of this is from personal experiences too. Like I said, I'm not just a Cancer sun, but I'm a Cancer rising. So, my first house is Cancer. That's why I was saying what you see going on in this chart, although this is not a transit chart, if this was, comparable to my birth chart, all of this stuff would be conjuncting a lot of what I have in the first house, because my sun is in the first house. I have a Mercury in the first house. I don't. My Mars isn't in the first house, and the first house is a really, really strong house. So, and then I don't have anything in the seventh house natally, but again, those transit planets that are there, Pluto, the South Node, and Saturn opposing what's going on in the first house. And not comparing it to transit planets, but just my natal planet. So there's going to be a lot going on there. So just considering, okay, if you're a first house or rising sign Cancer, that's going to mean a lot. That energy over here in Saturn in Capricorn is opposing everything that's going on over there in your first house of Cancer. And also, although you don't necessarily compare transit aspects to transit aspects in a natal chart, just you compare them to natal aspects, just thinking about, okay, take the natal chart of it out of it for a minute, and just looking at a chart like this for the day of the eclipse, which is July 2nd, just looking at what the planet placements are without comparing them natally. So the fact that Saturn, Pluto, the South Node is going to be opposing everything over there in the first house, which is the moon, the sun, uh, what else is over there? Again, although Mars is at 0 degrees Libra, you see it's still in that first house because it's basically damn near still in Cancer. It's just making its strongest turn, switching of signs. So there's a lot of strong energy there. And then the moon being in Cancer. So it's just, and I think I already said the moon. So it's a lot going on there in the first house opposing what's going on over in Saturn. And that's, I mean, in Capricorn. So that's why I talk about changes and coming towards something more stable where it's like, okay, this is what I'm going to be doing for the next 10 to 15 years. This is what I'm going to be doing for the next part of my life, or this is the yellow brick road. This is the path to where I want to go. And of course, it's nothing that has come easy, because again, you have Pluto over there in the seventh house. So Pluto and Saturn. So it just means to me, after going through very hard, difficult times, coming out on the other side and maybe seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, or finding your way after going through difficult times. And Saturn and Pluto are conjunct. Pluto on the 2nd is going to be at 22 degrees of Capricorn, and Saturn is at 17 degrees of Capricorn, and they're both retrograde. So it's that's why I said coming through hard times. This is not just okay, something's going to happen and this is fresh and it's new out of the blue. No, a lot of where you're going to find yourself as we go into July and go forward is based on where you're coming from in the past and the things that you've been through. And again, we're going to have Venus there conjunct the moon, which I think is a good thing. Although, and I think it's going to be a really strong Venus energy because Venus is sitting there at the last degrees of Gemini. So Venus is going to be in like the 28th, 29th degrees of Gemini. I don't think it goes into Cancer until the 4th. So the 4th, Venus is going to come through and go into Cancer. So if you think about it, it's a hot spot. Where the eclipse is happening, yes, it's going to happen and then it'll be over, but it's a hot spot. It's going to be a burning spot in the chart. So what comes through that is going to feed into that energy, is going to mesh with the energy, and it's going to have a duality based on that eclipse energy that's happened in the first house. So when Venus comes through, anything that you discover on during the eclipse, that you release, any new path that's sparked, Venus is going to come through and just bring the love to it, bring the beauty to it, bring the passion to it, bring a sense of caring and understanding to what you're going through on this eclipse. So it's like saying, okay, we're going through this big transformation, this big discovery of self, and Venus is just going to come through and pour love all over it. And I like that. I like the fact that Venus is going to be coming through Cancer after the eclipse has happened. So, you got the sun conjunct the moon. You got Mars in there. You got Mercury at 3 degrees Leo. So Mercury isn't far from this whole thing. So just think about, and let me just lower this so we can see what's going on. And then we got Uranus up there in Taurus. So something may be happening. And then you got Mercury sextiling Uranus there in Taurus. It looks like we have the moon sextiling Uranus in Taurus. Like I said, I'm not counting so much from degree to degree, but more like house to house. So you basically have the sun sextiling at Uranus and Taurus. So something new, something that may be out of the norm, but it has to do with the past. And there's going to be a different way that you approach things. Something out of the norm that maybe you have contemplated, but you may have not held off doing. And it's going to be something that has to do with the physical self. The physical health will be taken into accountability. So maybe, you may realize there's some changes or some things you need to do health-wise. There may be some changes because a lot of times the sun is thought of as the will and the inside, and the ascendant, the outside of the body. But when you talk about the ascendant being the body, of course, that's all the systems in the body as well. So you may be changing. It could be anything as minuscule as how you look on the outside, or anything as big as to something going on the inside, or inner thing. You know what I mean? And again, like I said, if there's any difficulty, this may not be easy. It's going to be different for everybody depending on where your natal placements are and what's happening and what aspects are going on in your natal chart. But if anything is difficult, if anything does creep up from the past, or if you have to take care of anything from the past having to do with the body or the health or anything like that, it may be a challenge, but I feel like it's all going to work out. It's going to be all love, and it's going to be healing that comes through whatever experience you're going through. So if you're going to do something something going on with the inner body, or if there's something going on with the outer body, such as a change of a look, a drastic change of a look. Maybe you're thinking about a drastic haircut in color, or you're thinking about drastic things of that nature. I feel like it's going to come out really, really good. Same thing if you're going through anything with the inner body, maybe any health concerns, surgeries, anything that you have to do. I don't recommend doing them on the eclipse, but it's a new moon. It's going to open up a new pathway, maybe bring new information and new things for you to make those decisions to do that going as we go forward through July and through the end of the year. And I feel like it's all going to turn out really good for the Cancers out there. So, and for people in general, because again, this is going on in the sign of Cancer. It just depends, where your planets are, what's going on, and where all of this is going to end up for you. So you just got to look at your transit charts and everything like that. And you can go to the website I'm on. You can go to AstroSeek to do a chart. You can go to Cafe Astrology. It's the Astro Deist, whatever that. I never can pronounce that website right. But you can go to, just Google it, and you'll find sites that you can go to look up your natal placements and your transit placements and everything like that. So, with that being said, then there are going to be, like I said, we got several planets in retrograde. So not a time to rush through things. It's a time to really go back and rework, especially with that Saturn and that Pluto being in retrograde. For Cancer, that's in your 7th house. So maybe working out things from the past, working out relationships from the past, or working on your foundation now. So, or working on whatever issues that you had that may stem from the past, so that you can set strong and stable partnerships with the people who are in your life now. So your marriage partnerships, boyfriends and girlfriends, living partnerships, or family partnerships, and things of that as well. Now, I will say, with these things going on in the 7th house with the South Node right there, sandwiched between Saturn and Pluto, I feel like a lot of that is karmic, especially with this eclipse going on. And we know the 7th house is the house of open enemies. So you guys may come face to face with settling some of your disputes, or revisiting some disputes and some issues that you have had with people that you may consider open enemies. And they could be the Capricorn sign, maybe not. They could be other signs in the chart. Just because Capricorn may be on your 7th house, it does not have to be. They could be earth sign type people. They could be people who work really hard, business people, government people, military people. It could be things people of that nature, or things of that nature, or just things that concern Capricorn type nature, or 7th house type things. So people that you find, maybe you've been going through discord with partnerships, or something going on with work, because that is a relationship. So things that have to do with relationships and social bonds and certain contracts and law, legalities, all of that kind of stuff, because the 7th house traditionally belongs to Libra, and just balance. So you may be having to work out some things from the past so that you can be balanced as you go in the future. And this eclipse is probably really going to show you. Like I said, although the eclipse may bring something unexpected and out of the blue, because again, it is sitting there sextiling those planets there in the first, are sextiling what's going on in the 11th in Uranus. And for Cancer, Taurus is going to be on your 11th house, and Uranus is at 5 degrees in Taurus in the 11th house. But the 11th house is a house of good omen. It's a house of good fortune. So whatever's coming from that sextile, and a sextile is an easy aspect. A sextile is a friendlier aspect, or a more non-confrontational aspect than a square or an opposition. So I feel like what's going on there may make for something unexpected that's really, really good. So I don't know. You guys may want to play the lottery. You may want to set yourself up to do things that are going to bring you some good energy. I don't know if that's like investing in something really good, playing a lottery, or just taking a little bit of a chance, a slight chance. I'm not saying go and jump off jumping off doing anything crazy, but just taking small chances with luck and things of that nature. And we also have, let's just talk about the Sagittarius really quick. And I just want to see something, guys. I wanted to see, I was looking for, not the contra parallels, I was looking for an aspect. And it's not, there's another site that I really like to use for charts. And I forgot the name of the site. One second, I'm just going to try to tell you. The site doesn't tell me. So, Let me see. Let me look at something real quick. I hope this doesn't take me away. This is a list of aspects. I'm looking for something in particular. I just want to see if I can find it. It's a separating aspect from Uranus. The moon is separating from Venus. Applying. Separating. It's good that's separating. Applying. Those weren't the aspects I want to see, so yeah, let's just go back. All right. So then, sorry, I was just trying to find something really quick. Looking at these aspects. So then you have Jupiter in Sagittarius. Jupiter is retrograde in Sagittarius. Again, I think that's another element, when Jupiter is in Sagittarius, it's really funny. I'm shuffling the cards. And as I'm shuffling this numinous, however you pronounce it, tarot deck, the card that kind of fell on my lap and flipped over was the 9th house. And I was just going to talk about how you got this Jupiter aspect here. And you've got Jupiter squaring Neptune. So Jupiter in the 6th squaring Neptune. Oh, 1 second. Oh, I was looking at this. 1, 2, 3. All right. Mercury is going to square that Uranus. We'll go back to that. So you got Jupiter squaring Neptune up here in the 9th house of Pisces. So Jupiter is retrograde in Sagittarius, mutable sign. Neptune is retrograde in Pisces, mutable sign as well. And they're squaring each other. But the not that that's all good. I mean, it isn't the best aspect to have. But one thing I thought that wasn't so negative about it is that Jupiter is retrograde and the Neptune is retrograde. And I know a lot of people don't look at that as like, okay, good energy or anything like that. But maybe it's a slowing down of anything that's negative, just a slowing down of the energy of those planets, because the planets are going really slow. But what I would say is if you have any travel plans or anything like that, just I think local travel plans are good to go. And we can just look at this. Local travel plans are good to go. It isn't too much going on here in the 3rd house Cancer, in your 3rd house of Virgo, using a whole sign chart. Isn't too much 1, 2, 3. Isn't too much going on here in the 3rd house. And as you see, nothing's there. No major aspects being made to the 3rd house from any other planets or houses. So the 9th house is long distance travel, foreign travel. So just, you may be rethinking your beliefs and customs and things like that. Maybe aspirations, going back to school, education, religion. You may be rethinking those things, because here you have the spiritual planet, Sagittarius. Jupiter, but it rules Sagittarius and it rules Pisces, where this Neptune is, and you had that opposing Neptune in Pisces, which is also a spiritual planet, a spiritual house. That is Sagittarius's original house, and the ruler is over here in the 6th. So your health and specifically, this is for Cancers. Take in mind, if you're any other sign watching, your natal planets are going to fall in different places. And right now I'm just talking about the transits. But generally in transit, we have Jupiter squaring Neptune between the 6th and the 9th house. So that just speaks of health and things like that. You could get sick if you travel long distance. I know there's this whole thing going on with the DR right now. People getting sick, people dying. I mean, so you just want to be careful with any long distance travel and things like that. And also, it may not be the best time to enroll in school. You might enroll, or may not be the best time to like change your whole church up or something like that, because you may make a move now that you look back and say, I didn't really mean to do that right at this moment. So that's just something to consider with that 6th and the 9th house with Jupiter and Neptune up there retrograding, both of those planets in retrograde. So we have quite a few planets in retrograde. Neptune's in retrograde, Jupiter's in retrograde, Saturn's in retrograde, Pluto is in retrograde. So that's quite a few planets that are in retrograde. A lot of the outer moving planets are in retrograde. So it's really the themes of life, because the outer planets rule longer time periods of our lives because they move a lot slower than the inner planets. So that's why I said it's really going to be a time of reevaluation, rethinking. But with an eclipse, with that new moon coming, it's going to push you forward. It's going to be a time to move on. You may realize that you've been doing a lot of thinking and contemplating and sitting on your hands all of this time, but now it's a time that's going to push you forward. So it's almost going to be like a now or never thing, or time to move on what you've been sitting on or what you just been thinking about. So we talked about these sextiles over here with the sun in Uranus, the moon in Uranus, and yeah. But let's talk a little bit about the squares. So like I said, this is basically at the last degrees, but we can pretty much take this 0 degrees. Oh, this isn't the chart I was looking at. I was looking at custom graphics. So we can pretty much take this, let's look at that. So we can pretty much take this Mars and this Mercury that is sitting here in Leo, since they're just about in the second house. Well, Mercury is going to be very early in the second house at 3 degrees. Mars very early at 0 degrees. I guess you can say they're going to be squaring Uranus. So that's when I talked about, even though there may be a negative communication, there may be some things at odds. Like I said, you have Mercury there in a tight conjunction with Mars. So there may be arguments, there may be some friction, but that's why you just don't want to let them get to you. You don't want to do anything drastic. There may be arguments that start, and maybe someone has a very fixed Taurian like opinion and they don't want to change their mind, but it may be something you're not taking that serious, Cancer, and you just kind of let go after you have that argument. But I would suggest not even to let things get you to that point. So there may be something physically or something with your will or your passion and your communication that you do differently. But I feel like it's going to even out with the sextile aspect that the sun and the moon are making. So it's basically saying, let me temper my actions. Let me temper my will. Let me temper my passions and communications in the way that I talk to people or the way that I do things. So I think you'll be finding that going on a lot this month. And the aspect that I was looking for, also, well, before we talk about that, this is the aspect I was looking for. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it might be a yard. I don't know if that's a yard right there. I'm not as familiar with yards. So you have Neptune in Pisces. You have Saturn over here, and this is at 18 degrees. Then you have Saturn in Capricorn at 17 degrees, and you've got the South Node at 17 degrees is sitting right on each other as something else. And you have Pluto at 22, so I'm going to include that. And then you have them both going back to, I believe that's going to be the part of fortune there in Cancer at the 8 degrees. So I don't know if that's necessary. Wait a minute. That is, and the sun at 10. So the sun is more important. I'm not really going to talk about the part of fortune because the part of fortune is there on that day. I think that, and let me just check my ephemeris really quick, because I think that's another thing that could be adding some really good energy there. It's in conjunction with the moon. It's in conjunction with the sun. So for all intensive purposes, as to not call them neutral, I'm gonna call the moon and the sun benefics. I'm not gonna call them malefic planets. They're not malefic planets. The moon and the sun are good planets. Like I said, that is your drive, that's your will. It's like the soul god with the goddess, which is the moon. So they're going to be benefics. So if you got the part of fortune sandwiched there between the moon and the sun, that's two benefic planets. And if it's making a yod to that Saturn and those planets over there in the 7th house, and Neptune in the 9th house, you just want to make sure you're seeing things clearly and you go with the reality. And I think, like I said, there will be some really good things coming, or you will find your joy. You will find what you have waited for. You will find, your hopes and your dreams and something very beneficial to you through the hardships and through the tough times and through the complete and utter destruction that you've been through and the difficult things that you've been through. So, like I said, in life, you can't have the good without the bad. And I just think this chart and what's going on with the eclipse, especially for the Cancers out there and just a lot of other signs, you'll find that, good and bad, even though they're a part of life, the sun does come out after the rain. So I think that's like a major point that I wanted to make with that. So I just wanted to verify what a part of fortune is, but I don't think it shows it in the ephemeris. I don't think so. I'm just browsing it. It doesn't. But, I think that's a major gist of what's going on in the chart, especially as you can see with the 7th house here sextiling the 9th house of Pisces in the midhaven. I mean, the medium coli, basically the midhaven of the chart. So not quite in the 9th. That's going to be over here in the 10th, but it's not far off. So there's definitely going to be things that have to do with yourself, how you view yourself, self-worth in relation to, like I said, how you view yourself and what you think about yourself, but also self-worth in relationship to the partnerships in your life, the people in your life, the roles that you've played to those people in your life, reestablishing new ways and new identities and new beliefs about yourself and beliefs about the people in your life and the partnerships in your life, seeing through some of the, especially with this Neptune retrograde, and kind of slowing down and maybe letting you see through the fog and for things not to be so hazy and really see some of the realities of what's going on. Seeing things in a different way. I mean, if I'm also looking at this, you got Neptune sextiling the 11th, Uranus in the 11th as well. So really seeing things in a different way and doing things differently. Not just seeing things differently, but doing things differently. Okay. So that's a big part of that as well. So you guys, what I would suggest, and I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna draw a couple cards. What I'm gonna suggest, when you're looking at an eclipse and you're looking at something like this, and again, let me just revisit this and let's just go over this one more time, just to kind of close up the whole point of some areas you may need to focus on for my Cancers out there and for the other signs, depending on what houses you're talking about in your chart. If you're a Libra, a Aries, or Capricorn, you basically know that this is either going to be opposing you if you're a Capricorn. So the eclipse is going to be opposing you if you're a Capricorn, and it's going to be squaring you if you are a Libra or an Aries. So that can give you just an idea. And if you're looking at Aries as the first house, that'll just give you an idea. So you're looking at Aries as the first, Cancer as the fourth, Libra as the 7th, Capricorn as the 10th, and you just kind of want to take it from there. That'll give you an idea of where this eclipse is going on for you in the areas of focus that you're going to have to focus on. But because of all the houses that would end up on the first house, if this was the case, so if it was Libra on the first, you got Libra on the first, Capricorn on the 4th, Aries on the 7th, Cancer on the 10th. So no matter which way you flip it, and if you're Capricorn, you're going to have Capricorn on the first. If you're looking at it as Capricorn rising or as in the sun being in the first house, Capricorn on the 1st, Aries on the 4th, Cancer on the 7th, Libra on the 10th. So the overall theme of that for the Cancers and for the other cardinal signs is this is happening in very strong houses. It's happening in the houses of self, identity, home, family, roots, foundation, health, the body, relationships, partnerships, marriages, people you get along with, and people you have conflict with, and making sense out of the two, putting people on one list, kicking, saying good riddance to other people. Where you are is in your career, is your destiny. Like I talked about a lot of this stuff that's going on in the first house for Cancers in this eclipse. I feel like something from your destiny is going to come into play, and you're going to realize the way you're going to be going forward for the next 5, 10, or 15, 20 years is going to be in a path that you may have always wanted to walk. Maybe you didn't see it possible. Maybe your dreams and your destiny are just going to take off without you even having a minute to really stop and catch your breath, even though it's something you've been thinking about and contemplating all this time. Because when we talk about destiny, we're talking about the first house, but we're also talking about the 10th house. So this is not just the work you do. This is like career, what you're really passionate about, what you really want to do. And for you, on that 10th house, you're going to have Aries. So what you're passionate about, what you really see yourself doing for the next 10 to 15 or so years. The relationships you see yourself having over here with Pluto and Saturn trying to totally transform your relationships and give you something stable, give you something that isn't based on fantasy or isn't based on superficial qualities. Pluto has come through that 7th house, and again, this is for the Cancers. But hey, if you're a Capricorn, this was through your first house. So it was very important, transforming your image. You going through a lot with what you got to deal with, and even the body and how you've been feeling. If it was Aries on the first house, then this would have been Cancer on your 4th, Libra on your Capricorn in your 10th. So maybe you guys went through a lot of career changes. Maybe Pluto and Saturn is really trying to get you ready and get you set for the career changes, and the Cancer eclipse that's coming may be pushing you into that direction, because the stuff that's going on has been going on for a while. It's been going on for years, at least the last year or so, with Saturn and Pluto being in Capricorn. And if you are Libra, and that Capricorn was your 4th house, maybe just a lot of changes with house and home. Maybe you've moved. Maybe you've had some major changes when it comes to your foundation, your house and home, your family relationships and bonds, the mother or the father, because I've heard the 4th house referred to as both, the parents in general. So, and I guess that depends on whether you're looking at modern or traditional astrology. So, it is just, and also with Capricorn in the 7th, you may see a lot of things coming out and about the partnerships, because the eclipse is going to be happening in your 7th house. And I think something's really going to move you in a new direction that lets you see what's what when it comes to your partnerships. But then again, Venus is going to move through there. So I feel like the love and the partnership is coming, Capricorn, but not without you kind of having a discovery first, not without you kind of really coming to terms and seeing the truth about something. What I can see through my opposite sign, Capricorn, a lot of times is, and this is what goes on with myself too. And like I say, your opposite sign is always a mirror. So it's a reflection of yourself. So you never want to really look at your opposite sign and say, oh, this person is like that, this person is like this, and this person is like that. Because 9 times out of 10, unless that person is just really operating from a low level, that person is showing you characteristics about yourself, because a mirror shows you things right back. And the funny thing about me, and I don't know if this is just being me, this is being who I am, a Cancer with Capricorn being my mirror and being my opposite self. One challenge that I've always had in life, and this is not a challenge, it's just something that I notice. Maybe it's all in my head, maybe it's from the way I judge myself, I don't know. But it's really funny that, you know, when people talk about Capricorn, I've heard, it can cause, someone in my astrology class was talking about some little boy that was born with like his skin really messed up, eyes fused shut, and he had like Pluto and Saturn in a particular house in his chart. And people talk about how that Saturn can really make like skin problems, can give like teeth problems and things of that nature. And I think it's like an overall looks, like a perception of how one looks. It may be a distortion of how one looks. You can, I think, find some of those issues with strong Saturn placements. And again, Saturn's on my seventh house. I don't have any planets in my seventh house, but hey, the ruler of my seventh house is in a very hypochondriac house of Virgo. So it's not just about what you have in that house. It's about what aspects are going on, where the rulers are, and everything like that. So one thing I've always found with being a Cancer, as we talk about mirrors, is I never feel like what I may see in the mirror is what other people may see in the mirror. For me, I never feel like pictures come out how I really look. I never feel like that. Like, just like many women, I've gotten compliments. Oh, you're beautiful. You look like this. You look like that. But I never feel like it's reflected in pictures. I do not feel like I'm photogenic, and I've basically felt like that all my life. Like, there's probably a few pictures where I'm like, oh, I really love that picture. But I've always felt like that, and not just that. I don't take pictures well. Like, if I take pictures of other people, it's like people have an eye for what makes a good picture. I don't have that eye at all. Like, I went out with my cousin Capricorn Friday night, and I was taking a picture of her and her friend. And like, after I took the picture, I took 2 shots, and I'm like, oh yeah, I got your picture. I got your picture. They're like, oh, this is a bad picture. Gave it to somebody else to take the picture, who actually like turned the flash on so you could see them in the picture. You might want to do that when you're taking a picture in like a dark club. So I'm just going to just that just goes to show, and I'm saying it to say that not everybody recognizes that your mirror really does show you something back, but you might not always see what you think you see, or sometimes you could refuse to see what the mirror is showing you back. A lot of us, as goes that saying, people don't want to take a look in the mirror. You get what I'm saying? So, and before we move on to drawing the card, I just want to run through just picking out anything else we can see about the planets really quick. Let's start over here, because Jupiter is just over here in the 6th house. Jupiter is in the house that it rules, Sagittarius. It also is it also rules Pisces as well. So again, health, what you do for work, volunteering, long distance opportunities. You guys may get a chance to travel long distance, but you may get a little seasick. You may get homesick. Maybe you go and you eat something. Just be careful with what you're eating and you're consuming in other places. Just be careful of that if you're going to do things of that nature. We have Saturn. Saturn does rule Capricorn, and in this chart, it is in the house of Capricorn. You would want to look at your own transits versus your natal to see where your natals are and what houses and everything like that. But so Saturn is in the house and rules, so it's going to do good in Capricorn. The best that it can do, it's going to do the best for you depending on what you've done for yourself, because it's a very karmic planet in Capricorn. It's actually slowing down to give you a chance to catch up, redo some things before Saturn keeps moving. Pluto, we can call that the traditional ruler of Scorpio. Not too much going on down here in Scorpio, but it is the 5th house, so there may be some things, and this is for Cancer. Again, this is specifically for Cancer. You'd have to look at your own houses to see where these planets fall for the other ascendants in the zodiac. I keep dropping this deck of cards. So there may be something going on with your children and your partnerships, maybe having children, getting into partnerships, solidifying partnerships changing. You could have kids that are going off to college. This is the time where kids are graduating, going off to college, but there are going to be some ties between that 5th and that 7th house Cancer. So sex, intimacy, partnerships, children, creativity. Like I was saying, you may find some totally new creative avenues that you didn't even know you had. Uranus is over here in Taurus. Uranus rules Aquarius as well. Also, Saturn is the ruler of Aquarius as well. So eighth house things, you may notice Saturn is making you go back and redo some things that have to do with taxes, loans, money owed, inheritances, debt, debts, and things of that nature. Something having to do with your money and your finances. So just keep an eye on that. You may have to deal with some of that stuff coming up. As we know, life presents many things that we deal with on a daily basis. So, all of these are fair game to be on the table as we get into July and go through July. Over here with skip over Neptune. Neptune is in Pisces and it's retrograding. So again, maybe you can see in the ninth house. So giving you a chance to really think about what you want to do. Maybe there's a stall on some travel plans. I feel like something's going on with travel plans that may not be going how you want it to go, or maybe there's just a stall because you got other things going on. So you may want to hold off on that with Neptune retrograding over there in Pisces in the ninth house. And education in school, I don't feel like it's a great time to enroll in any new classes or anything because you may feel like it conflicts with something that you have coming up in the future. So just hold out on that kind of stuff. Get past some of these retrogrades and the eclipse, and let the eclipse bring some new discoveries and some new information in, and then make your decisions a couple months out from now. Cancers and other zodiac signs, because regardless of where Neptune is, it's going to be retrograding. It just might not be in your ninth house. It might be in your third. So maybe you need to take some time away from siblings and see something in the sibling relationship clearly. Maybe you need to hold off on short distance travel, slow down, stop moving around so much. So, things like that. Uranus in Taurus. Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius as well. So again, that's the 8th and the 11th house. So when it comes to, like I said, debts, taxes, thinking about lifelong legacies, getting wills together, thinking about life and even life and death. I always will say that 8th house of Scorpio is life and death things, thinking about things that are really transformative, things that mean a lot to you, thinking really deep on things. As I talked about earlier, Uranus may be transforming the way that you think about some of those things, but in a good way, because again, it's not much going on over here in the eighth house of Aquarius for you guys, Cancer, at the time of this eclipse, and Uranus is in your good omen house, your good fortune house of Taurus, and that opposes the good fortune house of Scorpio in your chart as well. And there's not a lot going on in Scorpio, so I don't think anything really negative is coming from that. We got Venus in Gemini in the 12th. Venus rules your Libra and your Taurus. So again, that's going to be your 11th house and your 4th house. So home, family, friendships, tying together some of those relationships, like I talked about earlier, realizing who you want to be really close with, the associations that you want to have, and your destiny and your dreams, and how that ties into your home life, your family, maybe your lineage, your parenting, or your parents, or something that you find out in your family history or your family line and things of that nature. But I think it's going to be good stuff with that being the 11th house. And also looks, beauty, what makes you comfortable, just being at a more comfortable space in life as we get through this eclipse. Then we have the moon we're going to have the moon in Cancer. The moon rules at Cancer, so there's no better place for the moon to be is in Cancer. So I think some things are going to happen and are going to make you feel really good, regardless of any chaos that may be going on in the world, regardless of any chaos that may be going on with other people. And I'm not saying it's going to be on the day of the eclipse, but as we move through this, I think you guys are really going to get to a good place. I'm feeling good on the inside as well as the outside. The sun is in Cancer. The sun rules Aries. So again, where you are in the world, how the world views you, your notoriety. You may be doing something to get famous for. You may be doing something really notable that people are going to take notice of out there. So just keep that in mind. Oh, I'm sorry. I always think the sun rules Aries. Don't ask me why. I really look at the sun as an Aries ruler and not a Leo. I don't know why I feel that way. I know Mars rules Aries and the Sun rules Leos, but I always equate the Sun to Aries. So I'll take that back. Even though there's gonna be a point where we get there, and I'll tell you how. We are already talked about the 10th being in play, so maybe you won't be famous or do anything notable, but maybe you'll have something with your finances that helps you out, because you got the Sun in the first, and the Sun is ruling your second house of Leo. So maybe some money coming to you. Like I said, there's going to be some things going on in that eighth house as well. So something that has to do with money, value, worth, because the second house is traditionally ruled by Taurus. So maybe something that you worked hard on, or maybe you're discovering this new path that's really going to lead you to something that's valuable and for worthwhile. And that can tie into your career, because we do have Mars right here at the 0 degrees, and Mars does rule Aries, and that's the 10th house. And so I take it back. Maybe you will do something notable, or maybe you're getting into acting classes, or you want to do, there's going to be something that puts you on the front street, a lot of recognition and things like that for the things you have done, and the actions you have taken, and the work you've performed, because we got Mars there to 29th and 0 degrees, and those are big deal degrees. It means something's going to happen notable, and it's probably going to be with your 10th house, how people notice you coming out of a show, maybe something going on at your job, promotions. Even if you were to lose a job, it's going to put you in a better place. It's going to promote you in life in other ways that you probably cannot even see now, because remember, that square with Uranus is right there. So it's going to be some different shit going on that you might not have even imagined for yourself, but it's going to put you in such a better place. And then we also have Mercury there in your second house of Leo, and Mercury traditionally rules Virgo and Gemini. So again, with the 12th house, I feel like the 12th, because it does represent institutions and things like that, things we keep secret and things like that, there's going to be some money that you're probably going to be paying out. It's going to be some money, some things that you've going on. Maybe you got medical bills, things that come out the woodworks that you got to pay out, that you got to take care of. Or there could be some things where you are traveling and communicating with a lot of different people close in your circle, which is typical for around birthday times. You may be traveling a lot, you may be doing a lot. I know that June, especially with Mars being in Cancer most of June, and just coming out of Cancer as we get into July, it's been a very, very busy month for me. I think it's still going to be busy with the ruler of your second house being in your third. So maybe a lot of things we got to go, pay money, take care of debts, take care of bills, take care of some things you may not even have known about, bills that have popped up and cropped up, things of that nature going on with that third and that 12th house, ruler being in the second house of Leo. So just a fiery month, taking care of things, moving around, actions, a whole bunch of new shit, new ways to look at things, new ways to look at yourself, new ways to look at partnerships, being on Front Street with that 10th house. And a lot of that relating back to your home, your parents, and things of a close home-like nature and foundational nature, with the 4th house being in play as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I know this is pretty long, but I think you deserve it. It is a birthday reading for me, and it's a birthday reading for all of the Cancers out there. I want to say I love you. I love everybody who takes the time to watch and listen to my channel. I wish you guys nothing but the best. If anybody is praying for great things and willing and wishing and manifesting great things for everybody out there who listens to the channel, it is me. I don't know if you guys know a lot of Cancers, and you may know some Cancers that operate from a low level and maybe always negative or something. But me, being a Cancer rising and a Cancer sun, I recognize I was born in a Scorpio deacon, so I recognize the negative parts of life and the realities of life. But there's nothing that I enjoy more than people getting along, than love. And you know how they call Cancers crybabies? The thing that makes me cry is when people do touching things for one another, when people show love, that human love, that unconditional love, love regardless of flaws, love regardless of shortcomings, love regardless of disabilities, love regardless of faults, love regardless of not being what's popular and not being what's trendy. You know, I was a girl in school who, very popular, You know, hung with all the popular groups, hung up with all the popular kids. I was the popular group. I was the popular kid because I'm not a follower. 99%. I'm not a follower. I'm a cardinal sign on a rising in the sun, so you can imagine I'm not much of a follower. But I was always the person who I'm never too cool for school. I'm never too good for what's good. So I would be the same girl that, hey, I may be in these popular circles, but I'm talking to the kids. And this is not to be funny, because back in the day they really did ride the short yellow bus. It was the little yellow bus because it wasn't a lot of those kids. But I would be the girl that would stop, that would take my time. And it's making me even sensitive right now, but I would take my time to talk to the guys, the boys and the girls who rode on that short yellow bus. You know, when you would typically think a popular kid wouldn't have anything to do with being seen or speaking to them. And if I had a friend who's like, oh, come on, why are you talking to them? To me, everybody's human. I could see the beauty in a soul regardless of how you came into this world. And it's not necessarily our fault, even though I do believe we pick our destinies, and that the birth charts and our natal charts are the soul's map before we come here. And I do believe we pick our destinies and we pick our challenges and things before we come to this planet. But you know, just for all intents and purposes, this is just to stay in this realm. It's not our fault that we come into this world with certain challenges and ailments and physical disabilities and different disabilities with ourselves. And I could never imagine treating people different, or shunning people or looking down on people like I am better than, because of how they were born into this world, or because it is not what's common. And I think that's a theme in my life. I really do shy away from what is common. You know, I don't like what everybody else is doing. I don't like and I was just reading some stuff because in my astrology class I was having a discussion about this part of fortune. And my part of fortune, I've tried to do the calculations. I don't know if you guys have heard of the Arabic parts or lots, but I've tried. There's a different calculations for how to come up, because there are calculations between the sun, moon, and ascendant in different points in your chart and planets in your chart to come up with these different parts or lots. And there's many different Arabic parts. The part of fortune is just one of the more popular ones, but there are several other parts, and you guys can probably see on my screen. I was looking at some stuff on that earlier, and mine is in Scorpio, and it just talks about a deep need for understanding, a deep need to like see beyond, to throw out anything that doesn't work, and like a lot of traditional things, like just going with the uncommon, the unknown. And that's always been a person that I am. And it's just to say, being a Cancer, I think there's a deeper appreciation, and hopefully this eclipse will bring us to a deeper appreciation just for life, just for our fellow man. I know violence has always been a part of history. Mother Earth has its violent times. You know, we've got typhoons, floods, hurricanes, all of that kind of stuff. I know, that's when I say I know the bad is just a part as much of life as the good. But when you find truly good people, truly good relationships, when you truly love yourself, when you truly see the beauty in yourself, and you treat your fellow man, brothers and sisters that way, I think that is a part of the soul's mission here on this planet, or should be. So just keep that in mind, everybody. And I'm going to go ahead and I shuffled this one deck the whole time, but I didn't shuffle my Rider-Waite deck. So what I'm going to do is let me just pick um, a card from the one deck I was telling you about that has the houses, the planets, the aspects, and the signs. And I'm shuffling the Rider-Waite a little bit, but I'm going to shuffle it while I talk about the cards that I picked from the other deck. Who knows if I'll even need a card from the Rider-Waite. So for this eclipse, for you Cancers out there, let's see what we get. And for anybody listening, this is for anybody listening. But I just want to highlight my Cancers, my fellow water signs, my brethren, my brothers, my sisters, my air likes, my Cancers. So let's see what's going on. Oh, Scorpio. Did I not? I'm telling y'all, God just he just does me some kind of way. The universe just brings me whatever I speak of. The cards that I dealt were Scorpio, Jupiter, and the Numinous card, the mystery. And that is so fitting. And then Jupiter, guys, we got expansion and luck and good things. And we got Scorpio, the animal, the unbridled passions, the animalistic passions. And I just talked about my part of fortune being in Scorpio. So you guys, animalistic passion, and it even says on this card, passionate. We talked about things being transformative, and a lot of the reason we talked about things being transformative is because we were talking about Pluto, and Pluto, I guess it is the modern day ruler. I was saying traditional, but I guess we can call it the modern day ruler of Scorpio, because the traditional ruler would have been Mars. Mars is still caught up in this eclipse. As you guys can see, it's over here in this conjunction with everything else. It's 0 degrees Libra, but we're going to consider it first house Cancer stuff because it's right there in that conjunction on the second, the day of the eclipse. It will still be in that first house. And then you got Pluto. So even though there's nothing heavily going on in Scorpio for you guys, or in the eighth house, there is, because you still got Pluto, which is the modern day ruler of Scorpio, and then you got Mars, which is the traditional ruler of Scorpio, because in traditional astrology they don't take into account the outer planets because they weren't discovered until years later. But I talked up Scorpio, and we talked about transformation and going through difficult times and getting to a beautiful place because of Pluto. And again, Pluto is that modern day ruler of Scorpio. And the Scorpio card talks about, it says transformative, intense, passionate, secretive, carnal, thorough. Scorpios are very thorough. They have the finite details about everything that makes a thing a thing. I always call them my detailed strategists. Obsessive, intimate, primal, lusty, deep, eternal, resourceful, mysterious, regenerative, compulsive, destructive, and manipulative. So, and that's what I'm talking about, coming through that destruction, coming through that transformation, coming through a place of that. So just be careful with the things that you do. And what's so funny is on this card, it says mysterious. And we got the numinous card, which is mystery. And for the few times I've used this deck, I probably only used it a couple of times. I've never drawn a numinous card, which I believe is the name of the deck, the numinous tarot deck. And I've never drawn this card. And this card, it's like a wild card. This isn't a card in tarot. I wish you guys could see what I'm doing on camera. I don't want to be on camera though. I'm in like a bra top and some short shorts, so I don't want to face this towards me. But whoo, nose is running. I wish I could show you the cards, but you can always go look it up. But this card it's called the mystery card, and it says the unknown, the unknowable, ESP, which is like telepathy, psychic abilities, the cosmos, universal truth, oneness, source, the unnameable, shadow work, inner knowing, tingling, ghost, other worlds, space, enigmas, the occult, intuition. And I was talking to you guys, if you go back and listen to the reading, a lot about that, coming into destiny, coming, having changes in the way you think, spiritual things, maybe really taking some time and going back and rediscovering those things. Like, this is going to shine such a light on the self Cancer, because this is happening in the first house for you rising Cancers. And the first house, even if it's your sun isn't in your first and other things aren't in your first, is gonna give a lot of energy to your first, because it is the house of self, whether you're a Cancer rising or not. So there's just going to be so much going on, mystery. And what's really funny is, I was going to get like chart readings done, because I don't trust a lot of astrologers. I don't trust like psychics and tarot people. I trust myself to do it for myself, and there are a few that I really do believe in. And I was like, oh, I'm going to get chart read by this person, this person, this person, and I'm not. The only person I'll ever read my chart is my teacher. I mean, she has like double-digit years of experience studying astrology. She's like the president of the Astrological Society in the town that I'm in, and she's a very successful business owner. She's a Virgo. And so very, very knowledgeable, very mercurial, very, very Mercury and Virgo like. So she's the only person I'm going to let do it, because I said, you know what? And it's really funny. My Scorpio friend I know I'm going off on so many tangents, but I just have so much to say because there's so many synchronicities that happen in my life. When me and my Scorpio friend were working out the other day, she also is an astrologist, a beginning astrologist as well, and takes this class. She was talking about how she had seen this theme of Scorpio come up a lot. So guys, I would not be surprised if there may be some difficult things or some things that totally have to get destroyed and rebuilt. So mark my words. And if it's not in your personal life through the self, the image that you have of self and what you portray to the world, and the partnerships in your life, is going to be something on a world scale, something in the world, a destruction and a rebuilding that's going to had to deal with coming out of love in the end, even if it may not seem like that at first, because she had been seeing a big thing of Scorpios. She was talking about she had seen just like Scorpios in the news. She had some close Scorpios that passed away. So Scorpio, I think, is going to be a big theme as we get through this, with Pluto being retrograde and conjunct Saturn at this time and opposing the eclipse in Cancer. So I think that's a lot of the reason why this Pluto card. And I was saying I wasn't going to let a lot of people read me because there's an element to tarot and to astrology where, and a lot of people ask, like, why did the Bible say it's bad? And why did it say this and say that? Because sometimes you can know too much. Sometimes you really can know too much. Sometimes you need to go with the air of mystery and you need to be aware of life. So yeah, you need to study your chart. You need to know where the planets are. But I believe sometimes you don't need to look too deep into it trying to figure everything out. At least that's just how I live my life. Because when the days to live will come and the day to die will come. And you got to kind of focus on the right now. And I think looking too much into the future, looking too much into things is what drives people crazy and can cause you to live in fear instead of just living in the right now and making the best of every single moment of every single day that you can. So that's why I said I'm not letting a lot of people read me, because I want to enjoy the mystery of life. I just want to enjoy taking it one day at a time and living in it right now. So it was very, very telling that the numinous card came up. And hey, this is my eclipse. This is a Cancer eclipse. And not just a Cancer eclipse, guys. This is my freaking birthday eclipse. It's happening on my birthday. Wish your girl happy birthday. And then we got Jupiter. Jupiter talks about enthusiasm, optimism, generosity, benevolence, belief, lux, seeking, travel, positivity, lectures, foreign cultures, teaching, pilgrimage, chance, expansion, leaping, exploration, and potential. So all of those things are coming. Even if you don't particularly see it at this very moment, it is coming. Because I told you about the love and the things that are come even after going through difficult times. And I did deal 3 Rider-Waite cards just now, and I got the 6 of uh, Swords. Also, we talked about the travel. We talked about moving forward. And even though Jupiter's in retrograde, even if it doesn't expand it and present those opportunities, now it will. Jupiter is going to come out of retrograde. Let's see. Because it kind of goes back and forth. Those planets take a while to move. So Jupiter will come out of retrograde on the 11th of August. So I would say making plans, and also Mercury should be out of retrograde around that time. Although we'll be in a post-shadow period, let's address that really quick before I do these last tarot cards. Because Mercury is going to go into retrograde on... It's going to go into retrograde on July the 7th in Leo. So Mercury is going to retrograde in Leo. And if you see it right here, Mercury is currently at 3 degrees of Leo. It's going to be at 3 degrees on July the 2nd. Remember, this is your chart for July the 2nd, the day of the eclipse, that you can see all of that good stuff going on there. And it's going to retrograde once it gets to about 7 degrees. So just communication, things are going to slow down. I don't think traveling between July the 7th and August the 2nd. So for about a good month, Mercury is going to be in retrograde. It is going to go direct at 23 degrees of Cancer. It's going to go direct. So it's going to retrograde back into Cancer, and then it's going to come back into Leo. So it's going to go back, whatever this eclipse brings up on the 2nd, around, let me see, when is it going? It's going to be in Cancer on the 20th. So the eclipse that happens on the 2nd, you're going to get communication. You're going to find out something. You're going to revisit whatever's the things that are going on around the 2nd. You're going to get news about something that's going to address directly what's happening from that new moon and that solar eclipse is going on the 2nd around the 20. Let me see, where am I at? Around the 20th of July, because Mercury is going to retrograde on the 7th of July, but it's in Leo. It's going to go back into Cancer on the 20th of July. It's going to be at the 29th degree. It's going to go down 28, 27, 26. It's going to go all the way down to the 23rd degree of Cancer. And then it's going to go direct on the 2nd of August. So towards the end of July, you'll start to see some of that communication from the eclipse. Maybe you'll find out more what it's about. Maybe you're going to get more information of the plans moving or whatever's transpiring from that. You're going to get more information and revisiting of that as Mercury retrogrades back into Cancer, information and things of that nature. So I would say hold off on your travel plans until after the 2nd of August. And I probably would say hold off on those travel plans until the end of August, because we still got those shadow periods and everything like that. And then once we get into like the end of August and September, you're looking more so of Mercury going to be in Libra. It'll get through Scorpio and things like that. So if you're going to have travel plans, I would suggest to do them in September, the end of August, September, because then you're going to be looking at Mercury going. If Mercury goes retrograde several times a year, it's going to retrograde again on the 31st of October. Then it'll be direct on the 21st of November. Sorry, the 20th of November, I think that is. Sometimes it's hard to tell with these lines. Yes, the 20th of November. Then it'll be direct all the way up until February of 2020. So November, let me see. At the end of November, anytime after the 20th, preferably in December and January would be good times to travel. October, early October, all of September will be good times to travel. So just keeping that in mind with Mercury. But the tarot cards that I got from the Rider-Waite deck were the Six of Swords upright. So moving forward, moving to a better place after getting over destruction, trouble, hard times, is moving to better times. So it's movement. Like I said, some of you could be taking cruises, thinking about cruises. You could be doing cruises. It's actually what I'm doing for my birthday, so it's really funny. The cruise ship came out. Really funny. I got the Four of Pentacles in reverse, letting go. I talked about possibly having to pay out bills and debts because we're talking about Scorpio. We talked about the 8th house, and we talked about the 2nd house. They're going to be playing themes in this eclipse. So maybe there are going to be some debts and bills, but you just need to let go and move forward, because I also got the Hangman in reverse. So he's coming up off of that stagnant position. He's coming up off of that place. He's thought about something. I talked about how you have thought about something and thought about something and thought about something. Or you've had spiritual discoveries or epiphanies. You've had spiritual epiphanies. You've had time to work through this and think to yourself, and you're going to have a time to argue it out or communicate it out with somebody, and then it's just going to be a time to move on, to get up, take everything you know, everything you've been through, and go to a brighter place, a place that's going to be really, really good for you, really expansive, a place of mystery. And you might not be able to see everything, and you might not know everything that's going to happen, but trust me, it's going to be beautiful. It's always ups and downs in life. But Cancer, it is time for something completely new, a complete transformation with yourself and your relationships in your life, and to go to something completely fulfilling, completely new, although it is shrouded in mystery to keep you guessing. So guys, that has been my hour and a half solar eclipse reading, birthday reading for you Cancers out there. I send you love, peace. I wish you the best. And I'm going to be doing a lot of you know, kind of rituals and just very positive things, sending positive energy to you guys. I can't guarantee that I'll do a lot of videos, but you may want to check out and follow my Instagram. I'm going to try to post more. My Instagram is, what's my Instagram? Not my personal one. Let me just go. I post on my astrology one occasionally, but I'm going to try to pick it up more. My astrology one, I changed the name of my astrology one, but I don't know why it never changed. Maybe I just changed the name. It should be Zodiac Empress, but it was Portal 9, PORTALNYNE. You should be able to find it either under Zodiac Empress or Portal 9. I changed it to Zodiac Empress. I have no idea why it still says Portal 9. But anywho, I'm wishing you guys the best. I will be doing a lot of love, light, success, prosperity, wonderful things to come energy. I'm sending it to you Cancers, especially because y'all are me, I am y'all, and all of the other signs out there. So guys, with that said, I love you lots. I'm going to go ahead and end this video. Please comment below, especially if you're a Cancer and if you're other signs and you're going through things and you see the culmination. Oh, one thing I forgot. Oh my gosh, I meant to mention this earlier. Think back into your life to 2011, because this eclipse cycle is an 18-year cycle from 2011. Think back to your life to 2011 and what was going on in your life. Well, no, I'm lying. Hold up. What's 2018 minus 18? Yeah, like, not 2011. That's only 8. 2001. So 2019 minus 18. Yeah, like 2001. Think back into your life, like what was happening around that time, what was going on, because you may be seeing things from what was happening then. And I know in my own personal life, it's not something I'm going to get into on this video, but when I say it's like a repeat of something. It's a repeat, but in a total Uranian way of something that was going on in my life at that time. Maybe one day I'll share more with you guys, because you just wouldn't believe it even if I told you. So these eclipses, I'm firsthand can tell you, they mean so much. And you guys really want to take a look and pay attention to what's going on in your life. If you just want to try to, really understand this planet, what's going on, and be a better person to yourself and to others. Love you guys. Stay tuned. I may put up a zodiac reading right after this, because I think I've only done like 2 or 3 signs. So there are a few other signs I want to do. So stay tuned. I may do Scorpio next. I think it was either going to be Scorpio. I don't know if I did Taurus, but we'll see. Love you guys. Check out the website, earthskystar.com. New products are there. Constantly stocking with new products. You can get a reading. You can book a reading. Thank you to everybody that has been booking and getting readings. Your girl is busy. Love you guys. Till next time, I'm out.